Hey there gamers, DreamcastGuy here, and today we're talking about a very different style of topic, which is I want to compare the Nintendo Switch 2 to the Steam Deck, because these are now both out. I've had my Steam Deck for just a little bit under 3 years, and I've been playing a bunch of the Nintendo Switch 2, and I have to say that in a lot of ways, these things have a lot in common. I feel like they both have roughly the same battery life. I think their screens are about the same size, the same resolution, but when it actually comes to the stuff that matters, there is some major differences. So I want to break this video into 4 separate categories: price, graphics, games, and customization, because I think that all these categories matter, and also they both have their strengths and weaknesses. Right now, it feels like we're very much in the handheld renaissance, and I'm absolutely eating it up. As a kid who grew up with a Game Boy in my pocket, perpetually addicted to Pokemon, it's cool now that we can have console-level experiences in our hands. To me, that is the coolest thing ever. But let's break down which I think is better for you. Let's get into it. Hi, hope you're having a great day, and if you could please give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Now, let's begin with price, because this I think is probably the easiest to really kind of give to the Steam Deck. It's not a secret that I've complained a lot just about how expensive the Nintendo Switch 2 is. Just the base model, no bells and whistles, no packed-in games. This thing costs $450 minimum. Games, of course, are also $80 a pop. Controllers range from about $90 to a little bit over $100 for each and every one. Whereas when it comes to the Steam Deck, if you're getting one that's like refurbished with a small internal storage drive, it's about $320. But let's say you're trying to get a normal one. This is a normal baseline Steam Deck, right? This thing cost me $380. But also, I do feel like the fact that I can plug any controller into this, an 8-bit DOE, some random Chinese wired controller for $5 I find at a flea market, literally anything you can plug into this and it will work. But also, games are just way, way, way cheaper on Steam. The Steam Deck obviously has its own proprietary shop, the Steam Store, and they do tons of Steam summer sales. A lot of times there's games that are not just discounted, but sometimes brought down 96%. Today on Steam, they're just giving away Borderlands 2. I just got Borderlands 2 literally for free today. You would never ever see that on the Nintendo Switch. I do feel like Nintendo, something they will never be good about is what they call the Switch tax, which is that games get expensive on the Nintendo Switch and they never really get cheaper. You'll see sales occasionally, but especially first party. It's been 8 years since Breath of the Wild came out, and it's still $60. If you want to buy the Nintendo Switch 2 patched version of Breath of the Wild, that is a $70 game, and that doesn't even include the DLC. So, in this way, I do have to say that, in my opinion, the Steam Deck, probably the best part about it to me, is that it is a cheaper, more affordable product in the long run, and even up front. But let's talk graphics, because bit for bit, pixel for pixel, CPU versus GPU and stuff like that, I do feel like these systems are pretty close in raw power. But when you look at the screen, I feel like it doesn't really come off that way. And I feel like the difference is optimization. So the Nintendo Switch 2 is roughly the power of a PlayStation 4, which doesn't sound too insane at first, but really think of some of the games that ran on PlayStation 4, not just stuff like Infamous Second Son and Spider-Man and Red Dead Redemption 2, but there are just so many games that run extremely good on the PlayStation 4, and a lot of that comes down to optimization. If you're putting a game on PC, it is a bit more difficult because you have to code it and program it to work on hundreds of different variations of graphics cards, of RAMs, solid state or hard drives and stuff like that. Whereas if you put something directly here, directly on a Switch 2 in this case, it's easy because you code it for one platform. Already, there are games that are on this, like Cyberpunk. I've been playing Cyberpunk 2077 a lot. It looks impossible on the Nintendo Switch 2. It legitimately looks so good. It's going to be my main place to play, docked or handheld. I mean, straight up, I have been playing so much Cyberpunk because, yeah, it's not the highest frame rate, but it looks good. The version they put on the Nintendo Switch 2 is fantastic. Now, stuff does look good on the Steam Deck as well, but This to some people is a benefit or a detriment, but a lot of times you have to go into the graphics settings. Like typically when it comes to a good Steam Deck game, you have to go there and actually say, all right, ground clutter low, draw distance low. You have to actually go in there and make it so that like character models look better or hair looks better. You do have to a lot of times go in there and tinker with the options a lot to get it looking as good as possible. Now, some people don't mind that. Some people really do love going into the menus and really customize the experience. But to me, I am going to give the point of just raw graphics to the Switch 2 because not only does it look good, it looks good straight out of the box instantly. Now, next up, games. This is the hardest one to really break down because the Switch 2 obviously has the back catalog of the Switch 1. The Nintendo Switch 1 had, I think it was 13,000 games on it. But compare that to the entirety of Steam. Steam has hundreds and hundreds of thousands of games. Some of them ranging down to $1 cheapo weird experimental games all the way up to $70 crazy triple platinum awesome exclusives, right? I think that it's hard to just say bit for bit, but I think that I am going to give the point to both of them in a way. It's because right now, the Switch 2 does not have a lot of exclusives yet. Obviously, it's day one. You're not expecting it to come out with 20 exclusives as much as I would like it to. But some of the future exclusives that I'm hoping for on the Nintendo Switch 2, obviously we know about Metroid Prime 4, which looks amazing. But what about a new Xenoblade? What about the next Mario? What about the next crazy Zelda that's definitely in development? I mean, that stuff is what gets me extremely excited. I have to say, though, that right now, I do like all the games that are on my Steam Deck because really the sky is the limit. Not only are there the hundreds of thousands of Steam games on it, but I can put whatever I want on my Steam Deck. In fact, I've got it set up where when I'm on my Steam Deck, I can actually play my PlayStation 5 games streamed. They will actually stream from my PlayStation 5. I can activate remote play. A lot of times at the gym, I'll actually work on like a RPG save file or something, or I can just literally remote tap into anything I want with it. I can put ROMs and emulators. I mean, I can play PlayStation 2 games at 4K on my Steam Deck, and they look absolutely insane. So in this case, they both have a lot of strengths and weaknesses that to me are impressive in different ways. So I'm going to count it as a draw because in this category, I think they both do have good stuff. I will say that I think I'm more excited about the future of Nintendo Switch 2 exclusives over Steam Deck because as much as I like Steam, as much as I like the Steam Deck, I still feel like it's just that default proprietary platform. It's sort of how I feel about PlayStation. A lot of times people consider the PS5 to be the default console, and right now I'm just not excited for future PlayStation first-party exclusives in the way that I'm excited for future Nintendo Switch exclusives. Okay, last category, customization. Okay, I don't know a nice way to say this. There isn't customization on the Nintendo Switch 2. There isn't. You can make like folders. The themes are black and white. Literally, that's it. You can't do anything to it. Whereas with your Steam Deck, you can customize every single part of it. The organization, you can actually put it in desktop mode and reprogram the entire look of it. Look, when I put mine in sleep mode, when I actually take it out of sleep mode, look, it's Rainy from Elden Ring. Like, every single part of this, you can change the startup, the animations, the layout, the folders. You can program this thing in a million different ways. To me, the customization clearly cannot be understated. The customization on the Steam Deck is truly top-notch. I mean, one time last year, or no, it was early this year. Early this year, me and my girlfriend were celebrating our anniversary, and we went on a trip, and we were trying to watch a Severance episode. So I put basically a streaming app on my Steam Deck, and while I was down there, we put it up on the TV on one night while we were sipping our margaritas and watched the new episode of Severance. And then right after it, I was able to pull up forums and stuff and look at fun fan theories with her. Stuff that would just be so utterly impossible with the Nintendo Switch 2. Because with this thing, as cool as it is, it's nice that I can play GameCube games and stuff on it. It just feels like, obviously, Nintendo is very, very, very strict with any sort of customization. They've already actually released a new in-license user agreement where if you do anything they don't like, anything like playing it on airplane mode and trying to duplicate accounts or anything like that, they can actually brick your Switch if they think you're even attempting to customize it. I will say this. I think the Steam Deck is extremely cool. I do think the Nintendo Switch 2 is pretty dang cool. In this case, though, I do think that in the long run, the Steam Deck is a cooler device to me. But it's also much, much, much more niche. Just yesterday, it's now been about 48 hours since the Nintendo Switch 2 came out. The Nintendo Switch 2 is probably already outsold every Steam Deck and every Steam Deck competitor. Everything from the Lenovo to everything else. All that stuff has been blown out of the water in 24 hours instantly because this is a much, much more mainstream product. But I'm just saying that if you're trying to find a way to game that is more deep, more out there, more maybe a bit more tailored to you, consider the Steam Deck. I think it's a pretty cool thing, but if you're looking for ease of use, yeah, this thing wins hands down. These have just been some off-the-cuff thoughts. So how do you feel about the Steam Deck? How do you feel about the Nintendo Switch 2? And what exclusives are you looking forward to for either of these? Tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and please keep dreaming. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.